This is the Gamdias Argus M1, a mid-tower RGB-enabled tempered glass PC case that is competing in the $75 to $100 market of gaming PC cases. Now at first glance, the Argus M1 looks like it could be a decent PC case. It has tempered glass and RGB, Hello peeps of Overclock, I'm Blue Devil. So today, we're going to be looking at the Gamdias Argus M1, which seems to be a good looking PC case. Coming from Gamdias, which mind you, haven't been active in the PC gaming case market, being founded in 2012. Back to the Argus M1, Gamdias seems to be trying to hit their need for a tempered glass RGB inspired case in an already crowded market. Having offerings from, well, just about every manufacturer, competition is very fierce. So what does the Argus M1 do to set itself apart from the rest of the tempered glass RGB cases on the market? Kicking things off with the specs, the Argus M1 is an ATX mid-tower PC case that can support bigger eATX motherboards. The M1 also has support for various water cooling radiators to 360mm in the front. Fan support for the top is limited to only two 120mm or 140mm fan options with a magnetic dust filter. Drive support in the M1 is restricted to two 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drives in the adjustable basement drive cage, as well as two 2.5-inch drives on the backside of the main compartment. The main compartment, which is partially separated by the Psu Shroud, which has tune mounts for 92mm fans on the top, as well as a cutout for PSU visibility. Moving to the outside of the M1, the front I/O has one USB 3.0 as well as two USB 2.0 ports, along with headphone and mic jacks. The ARGB strip that runs in the center panel is pretty cool with its angular pattern, which can be controlled by a 3-pin ARGB header on a compatible motherboard or from the integrated buttons on the front I/O. The front panel, which also has slots on both the right and left sides, provide front ventilation. When I started writing this review, I really didn't want to do it, but that wouldn't be very constructive, would it? So not to rip Gamdias a new one, here's some constructive criticism that should shed some light on improvements with the Argus M1. First thing I noticed is how thin the steel was. I understand this is a cost-cutting measure. Thinner steel is used, but most notably, the M1 was very flimsy in almost all exterior panels. The front fan mounts, which are tooled to be removed if need be, as well as the 5 1/4 drive base support, are, well, not needed. Which leads me to the front panel. The front panel reminds me of cases in the early 2000s in terms of the attached I/O. The tempered glass section, while looking sleek, while being more beneficial to have a mesh instead of glass, would also reduce cost. Secondly, the Pci brackets are the kind that are stamped to be twisted out, not something you see in a $75 to $100 market. Two Pci brackets thankfully are in the accessory pouch to replace at least two slots that aren't being occupied by a video card. Moving to the Psu Shroud is a couple of questionable design choices. First, when tooling out the PSU visibility window, why not instead tool out a PSU bracket instead of the PSU window? Personally, I don't think a lot of us care about seeing the sticker for our PSU anyways. Then what had me shaking my head was the use of 92mm fan mounts on the top of the Psu Shroud. Why in God's name would anyone still be using 92mm case fans? The main compartment is pretty standard. No rubber grommets for cable pass-through, as well as some ketchup and mustard front I/O cables are present. Thankfully, 6 of 9 motherboard standoffs are pre-installed. Then, which I find to be very uncommon, was the omission of any fans whatsoever. I hate to say it, this price bracket, I would have hoped to find at least one fan to be included. So in conclusion, I don't hate the Argus M1, however I do think the pricing is too high. Say something around $59.99, I would understand it much more. Being priced at nearly $80, there are a lot better choices. The Argus M1 from Gamdias earns 3 out of 5 flames. Thanks again guys, if you don't mind please smash that sub button and comment below. Blue Devil, out.